Hello and welcome to the From the Top interview series. I'm your host, Mike Martin, and today I'm joined by Jared Tang, founder and CEO of Gaggle Social. Jared, thanks a lot for joining me today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Mike. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm excited to have you on, but maybe just start by briefly introducing yourself and your business and just talk a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Like Mike had mentioned, my name is Jared Tang, CEO and co-founder of Gaggle Social. Gaggle Social is the revolutionary way to search for, network, and hire enterprise technology experts. Background primarily has been within marketing, communications, and technology recruitment, which is actually where I came to find the idea of Gaggle Social. And ever since, I've been kind of running with this concept of trying to improve the way that we communicate with potential talent, as well as save businesses time, energy, and money on technology hiring.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah, that's a huge area. I know coming from, the consulting world. In consulting, finding talent is the constant, right? It's the constant work, right? We're always looking. You win new work, you got to make sure you can staff it. So it's just you're always looking for how can we find and deploy high quality talent. So it's a really very ripe for a new way of doing it and a new way of solving it, which is what I'm really interested with about Gaggle Social. So, and maybe just like a little bit, if you can tell us a little bit more about like kind of how you got started and what brought you into sort of wanting to be an entrepreneur.
Sure, sure. So, realistically speaking, how I got started with Gaggle Social, I would say that I drew from multiplicative inspirations behind the ball, right? So, to put a pin on probably the number one inspiration I'd have to say is that I recognized that there was a weakness in the way that we normally and historically have done recruitment and hiring in the past. And when I really realized that, it was actually during the time of COVID when I was working in recruitment. I started to realize that businesses were holding close to their budgets. You had consultants that were looking for work more than ever before. They had been laid off or removed from projects. And people all over the US and all over the world, honestly, were in shambles. They didn't know what the future held. They didn't know what tomorrow looked like. And what did the industry do for recruitment? They raised their prices based off of the supply and demand theory. And super smart idea for them, right? I mean, we have something that you obviously couldn't have done before COVID without us, right? Because of the way that they have the industry under lock. But now more than ever before, you're lost and without cash. So find a way to pay up and we'll in turn provide you with the best possible resources that we have, whether that be training and educational resources, or whether that be directly helping you to improve your hiring processes. And that really got me thinking, right?
Mhm.
Why were they paying such high prices to begin with? At the end of the day, if you think about it, in the grand scheme of it all, it was very expensive before COVID. Then they raised their prices. And then it was astronomically expensive. Since then, they've kind of leveled out. But the real question that really made me think was, why are you working with me anyway? I mean, you're eating up your budgets by just throwing it at somebody who is using the same tools that you are,
Mhm.
right? And then it hit me. That just enterprise technology hiring was just too complex for the one size fits all approach that the boards that we use historically provide. And the only approach that most of the platforms that we use can offer, right? I mean, think about it. You're using the same platform that I can use to apply to be a brain surgeon if I wanted to.
Mhm.
And in the same breath, I can look up Salesforce admin. It just, and then we're going to offer the exact same solution to both needs. And the really driving factor was there were people who needed help, people who were lost, and I knew in my heart that what it is that they're using today isn't providing them enough transparency, enough accuracy, a cost effective enough solution. And it's why recruitment agencies across the world are surviving and thriving.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that what you said there, about really the gap that you felt and saw. All great businesses, right, start by there being a need, right, or a gap, right, and
Right.
filling that. So it absolutely makes sense. And I think too, your point about one size trying to fit all, right? When we're talking, especially in the world in which we're operating here, technology, enterprise software, ERP and enterprise consulting, you're not going to be able to use one platform like any one of these big recruiting boards to find a brain surgeon, and right, it's not tailored enough. And I think especially in today's world, everything is about being very specific, filling a very specific need, niching down, super niching down. And I think clients and customers now expect a very personalized approach. And I
Right.
think that's kind of what you're hitting on there. Does that
Yeah,
resonate with you?
it definitely does. And we use the concept of hypersegmentation as a driving force behind everything that we do. We want to be the place that everybody who is looking for roles or looking to hire in tech or just looking to communicate with others in tech know that they can rely on, as opposed to having to use almost the same approach across three or four different platforms
Mhm.
that have their own nuances that make them quote unquote unique. But in the grand scheme of it all, it's all providing you with the same result: a
Yeah,
bunch of people who are looking for work. And at the end of it all, they are all competing with each other in five or six other platforms as well. So they're going to say whatever they can do to get a conversation. And there's also such a lack of communication between the hiring managers and the hiring teams with the candidates, which is another area that we look and solve to improve. And that's a big driving force behind why people who are underqualified for roles feel that they should apply for certain roles. And it's because any feedback will help them, any feedback will excite them. Getting a no, even if it's a no, sometimes, depending on how long you've been looking for a role, could feel better than the standard, which is no feedback at all, right?
Mhm.
Just radio silence.
Yeah,
So, with that being said, and everything that we're working on, our very deep dive focus allows us to provide an environment that makes people excited for a job search, as opposed to makes people worried about what tomorrow looks like.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Excited for a job search. Rather than it being this painful process, right? And
Sure.
I think what it sounds like you're doing is really solving kind of two problems. One, this approach where one size fits all, and maybe we're not really getting the custom searching that we need and finding the right talent with that hyper segmentation. But then also, even if you are in the world of technical recruiting, that's fraught with its own issues, some of which you touched on there, that there's kind of like this middle person process that they're getting in the way there. And then you don't know what the quality of talent it is. And I know, being on both sides of that, both a hiring manager and having been a resource recruited by those firms, one job comes out in North Carolina and I get 15 emails from 15 different recruiters,
Yes,
all with the same exact job. And I'm like, well, which one do I go to? And then it becomes a race to the bottom. Who's going to take the least cut of the potential rate that I would get there, or who's going to pay me the best, right?
exactly, exactly. And with that being said, one of the things that I'd like to also point out is that our platform is designed to be recruiter free, right? So that you actually can alleviate some of that as a hiring manager and as well as the candidate, right? At the end of it all with them is that they're going to work to the best of to sorry, they're going to work to benefit themselves and their business on both ends.
Mhm.
And it's the job of the recruiter to negotiate to find the best margin for themselves, but also in turn get a hire in that the company can be proud of or excited for or benefit from. And a lot of the times, what that looks like is coming down to money.
Yeah.
And the money wouldn't be so bad if there wasn't a margin on it, but there is. So
Right.
we are recruiter free with that aspect, is that we're providing with an environment that you don't have to worry about recruiters, because we're giving you all the tools that you would need to run that job search without them, saving you up to, upwards of $25,000 sometimes per role, right? And without having to post it to 5 or 6 other job boards for 2 months before that. So the average time it takes now to hire in technology is about 60 days, which is around 20 days longer than the average time it takes in other industries. So if we can shorten that, which we have been able to at least showcase in our testing, is possible. If we can bring that back down to the old average of 30, then we've already gotten halfway there.
Yeah,
Excuse me,
absolutely.
we've already gotten halfway there to what we need.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's amazing those statistics, like 60 days to hire in technology. And
Yeah,
in some ways it's a problem, but we can understand how hiring for technology is a little bit more complex
yeah,
because there's a lot of skills and analysis. But I also think a big reason why that is stretched out is because the process today is broken.
yes, very much so. And they're purposely creating solutions that enable recruiters to do their jobs better, and then give the base level of functionality to the masses, which
Mhm.
in turn provides you with a lackluster solution unless you can help feed the bellies of their additional clientele.
Right. And I think too, this is good for the entire market because we do want to kind of hold recruiting agencies to a better standard to provide value rather than just shuffling resumes
Sure.
around. If you really want to differentiate yourself, if you are in that space today, then figure out ways to provide value to your clients so that you are doing just more than taking a resume from one pile and putting it on another, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's more than just scanning, and that's what it's become, right? I mean, when you have 400 and 500 people in a short list, I mean, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. It's very easy to try to spend as little time as possible on each resume to maximize your efficiency, but you're going to overlook those who truly are good fits because of resume fatigue. It's because of looking at things for too long. It's being overwhelmed by the number, and then having to make up for time that technically, had they come to the recruiter first, wouldn't be such a big deal, but in many cases it's their last option, right?
Yeah.
But they've already spent their budget 4 or 5 other ways.
I've been there,
Yeah,
in running consulting practices and even the consulting firms that I work with now. It's like, we need to, oftentimes we're scrambling, right? We
yeah,
get it, we win a new project, and now we've got to quickly find resources. And if you're not planning ahead, you really put yourself behind the eight ball. And then what you end up doing is making a hire that's not as quality as you could have made because of time pressures, and you're scrambling to find, let's just find somebody as good as we can, as fast as we can. And that's not the way to do it. You really want to get the right resource in place who is going to do a quality job for your firm. And rather than scrambling and just having all this external influence other than finding the right person.
exactly. And no one knows your company better than you do. So working with somebody who just came in yesterday just to understand your requirements, are never going to be able to get a grasp on the company culture, the values that you espouse, the things that you as an organization appreciate. And they're going to give you very templated approaches. This person has exactly what you're looking for in the tech domain, but they may not check off the other 9 boxes that are necessary in a job search.
Right. And as we know, right, skills and knowledge are great, which is what many people hire on. But the real way to measure the success of a resource is their attitude and their approach to the job. Are they
Exactly.
going to dedicate to your effort? Are they going to work all the hours they say they are? Are they going to produce quality? Are they going to follow your methodology? Or are they just going to come in and do what they want? And that's huge.
Yeah. And it's definitely, it's worrisome for most organizations. So I'm glad that we're kindred there for sure. We've always been that way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So let's maybe pivot a little bit to just kind of
Sure.
talking about the business a little bit. And
Yeah.
Just wondering your thoughts on maybe some common misconceptions that exist when you're running a tech-based company.
Sure, sure. So there's one thing that, I started Gaggle Social when I was fairly young, right? I mean, as a professional, I was pretty new onto the I wouldn't say I'm pretty new onto the market, but I was relatively green in my entire professional history, right? And I guess I didn't really understand the impact of what it meant to be an entrepreneur. I didn't really understand the impact of what it meant to be a business owner. And, the way that people kind of provided evidence to the success of businesses is that it kind of felt like it was a piece of cake as long as you had a great idea.
Mm,
And that's just
mm,
simply not true at all, right? It takes a special person to be able to inspire your team members, take risks, bet on yourself,
mm.
stay up late, do the things that no one else is going to do. Who's with you in the dark when no one's around? It's you. You have to be your your backup, you have to be your front line, you have to be your quarterback, right? And it takes a long time to pull it off. I mean, look at Amazon, right? It took Jeff Bezos 9 years to turn profit on one of the most wildly successful businesses in the world. I mean, kudos to him because he didn't give up. And most businesses will fail within the first, what was it, 3 years or so
Mm.
of inception. To have that much faith in yourself, that much faith in your product, and that much focused innovation and critical thinking power to be able to move the business forward after 9 years of work without seeing a single dollar is so impressive. And
Yeah.
I honestly, I address this by surrounding myself with industry leaders and experts like yourself, right? Literally like yourself, who are passionate about the problem that I'm working on at every angle. I mean, you have been up with me at 10, 11 o'clock at night. You just working through things, and making sure that I'm thinking about everything, not just what looks cool, what sounds cool, be easy to market, right? But every individual facet. I'm not making biased decisions, that you're there to, coach and help and grow, and tell me when I'm wrong, right? When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I need to hear that, right? And then celebrate my successes when I'm right, right? And
Yeah.
that is extremely important in a lot of things as well, as that people believe they can do it on their own. You cannot do it on your own unless your business is you, unless you are the product that you are selling, right? The service that you're offering. 9 out of 10 times, if you believe that you can do this without people who have the best interest of the company and the best interest of you in mind, you're not going to make it forward, right? Another thing is that I was always there's always a bit of a stigma around receiving similar help, right? And working with a coach, right? You think that you're the CEO, right? So you got to be the the best, right? You have to be the top dog. You have to know it all. You have to be everything. That's not true. Somebody needs to tell you and coach you. So who's going to manage yourself, right? It's
Yeah.
difficult to say. That's why there's a board of directors. That's why there's not one person always making decisions,
Right.
right? But
Right.
at the end of the day, it's very important to have people who are going to be honest with you because of not only the relationship that you and them have developed, but also the focus that they came in with and for, and the greater good of what it is that you're both working to build. It's a
Yeah.
collaborative effort. It's a team.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. And I appreciate that. You touched on quite a lot there. And I just want to call out like the thing you said about, betting on yourself is huge. And that comes down to belief. Even what you were saying there about Amazon, right? It was belief in the idea, in the company, in the ability, and you really do have to have that unshakable belief. And that's why not everybody is desires to even be an entrepreneur because it
yeah,
takes that, and it takes the absorption of risk and all that hard work. And then
yep,
of course, I'm biased, but I do love what you said there about coaching and advisory and business coaching. That's why I do it because I find many owners, founders, CEOs, they don't have somebody to talk to.
yeah,
They're, like you said, expected to be the final word. The buck stops there. And it's invaluable to have the ability to bounce ideas off of, leverage somebody's experience, leverage that outside perspective, somebody on the outside of your company to say, I don't think that's going to work, or, ask those thought provoking questions that allow you to work out some of the things you might not be able to do without a conversation with another person.
Yeah. And I would say that rather than imperative, I'm sorry, invaluable, I believe that's actually imperative, right? It
Mhm.
is so unbelievably important to not be the only thought leader in what's driving you forward, because you, as a human, will 9 out of 10 times make a decision thinking about biases first. It's just human nature. It's
Sure.
just human nature. Whether that is the way that you position it and speak it, everyone's going to have a different spin. And having those ideas free flowing, a creative environment, a critical thinking mass is extremely, extremely imperative to the success, I think, of any business. And people will tell you that they didn't get that, and they're lying to you. I mean,
Mhm.
you really believe that within those 9 years, Jeff Bezos talked to nobody? Jeff Bezos got ideas from nobody. Nobody
Right.
told him what he could be doing better. He may have gotten ideas from people that he definitely 100% said, yeah, you're full of it. I'm not interested in hearing anymore. And, thanks for your thoughts, but see you later.
Hmm.
But I guarantee you that a very large majority of things that worked 9 years later were based on information that he gathered from having critical conversations with critical team players.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's a couple quotes that, in the business coaching world we often go back to. But the whole idea of everybody needs a coach. If you think of, and I believe Eric Schmidt and Bill Gates both said this,
Yeah,
but if you look at some of the greatest success stories, the athletes, like Tom Brady, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, they all had coaches,
yeah,
right? They didn't do it on their own. Even if they knew what they needed to do, just having that outside perspective to look at what they're doing and say, what if you tweak this? What about
right,
this idea? Have you thought of X?
right.
So yeah, I mean, Bill Gates and Eric Schmidt, two insanely successful CEOs, are you
Yes.
could find the videos. It's them
Yeah.
talking about, everybody needs a coach, including CEOs and business owners.
To that same point, I mean, imagine a sports team, professional sports team run by the players,
Right,
right? I mean, it would never happen. It would never happen,
right,
right? Because who are you going to start? You're going to start yourself, right?
right. Exactly.
Who's going to play? You're going to play. Even if it's not the right decision for the team, not the right decision for the plays, not the right decision for the team you're playing against,
Right.
you are going to start yourself 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
And it is
And it's the
important.
same thing. That's a great
Yeah.
analogy for a business. If you're the CEO, you want to take every shot, but
Yeah.
maybe someone else on the team is better at social media posting, or, better at explaining the technology. You've
Yeah.
got to be able to say, no, you do that, you do this. And like you said, you can't take every shot. You gotta empower the team.
Exactly.
Sometimes the outside perspective helps you see that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, just wanted to ask then too about being in technology. If you have sort of any thoughts on how you adapt to changing technology, and how you keep up with innovation, and how you innovate yourself.
Sure. Sure. I mean, landscapes are always changing, especially in enterprise tech, right? Everything's evolving. And, one week we're watching Boston Dynamics, put out this really cool robot. And then the next week you're watching the boom of, Chat GPT. It's so rapidly evolving. And I would say that the way that I make sure that I'm always on top of things is that I approach things, everything that I do, even if I've done it 100 times, like a learning experience, right? Every conversation, every interaction to me should feel like a new experience, even if I've done it 100 times, because I will always find something to learn if I take that approach. And that's what I've kind of recognized. So that's why, I will read articles sometimes, right? I'll read something yesterday and then tomorrow, today I'll skip it and tomorrow I'll read it again, right? Just because. What if I miss something? What if they edited something? What if they added something? right? Not saying that you have to go reread everything, comb everything with a fine, tooth comb,
Yeah.
but if you approach everything like it's a learning experience, you will inevitably learn, right? I'm always looking for the next big productivity tool. And I'm
Hmm.
always looking to do more research on the industry, stay sharp, learn and read every single day. And it can become therapeutic, which, was very helpful to trying to unwind, trying to find that balance in your life. So it's kind of a twofold moment there, right? And it becomes something that is almost impossible to live without once you get into the habit of it, right? Not to say that you have to be awestruck by every little thing that happens, right? If you're like, I never knew Hondas made that noise, I mean, you don't have to do that, but if
Yeah.
if you're going ahead and you're opening up, a social network and you see something about it, explore it.
Hmm.
Explore the things that you know are going to move you and your business forward. Explore things that you know are going to move you personally forward.
Yeah, I find it's often, I know I have this too. It's just a natural desire, and it's something you do naturally.
Right.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs do this, especially in their industry, whatever it is. I know in technology we're changing, rapidly, maybe even more rapidly than the medical field.
Yeah.
And so you have to stay abreast of what's going on. And I love that treating everything like a learning experience. That's very much a growth mindset, right? Always knowing that there's more to learn and seeking it out. And I think doing that naturally is a key skill in technology. Just always being wanting to be up to date on what's coming out, what's new. Is there a better way to do that? It's sort of that continuous improvement
Yeah.
mindset as well.
Absolutely. Perpetual curiosity.
Awesome.
And it just continues and moves and grows and it drives you forward too, right? Because you
Yeah.
you want to learn more. You become an addict of learning.
Yeah.
It becomes an addict of education, academia, something that you want to continue to empower. And then you start to wonder if you're the smartest guy in the room, right? And that's
Yeah.
important. There's power there, right? There's power. If I'm the smartest guy in the room, isn't there the most power there? Right. And it's never really true, right? You're never the smartest person in the room. It's just how
Right.
the world works. But except for that one person who actually is the smartest person in
Yeah.
the
But
room.
sometimes being up on the latest thing, you can come across that way because
Yeah.
like, hey, have you heard of, the new like when ChatGPT first came out, it's probably the most recent magical type technology
Yeah.
I've seen in a while. And it's like you show it to people for the first time, they're like, what? This is
Whoa. Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I was just having a conversation earlier today where it's something like I think McKinsey did a study. 45% of most of what you do in your business can now be automated, and
Wow.
is not currently being automated. So those leading companies are embracing that, and they are
Sure.
figuring out the better ways. How do we do this faster, more optimized, more streamlined, automate it? Because that saves money in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'd like to sort of wrap things up here, but maybe just as we close out, just to kind of ask any advice that you might offer, an aspiring entrepreneur, something that you've learned, who are, starting their journey or, facing a sort of what's going on in technology, whatever resonates for you there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is going to sound really trivial, but I wish somebody, well, I can't say I wish somebody didn't tell me this. I wish I took the advice that people had given me earlier instead of bypassing it and saying that you just don't understand. What I can tell you is that it is so unbelievably important to get rest, to
Mhm.
sleep well, to eat well, right? And treat your body and your mind right. It's something that I ignored early on, and people were telling me to take breaks, do a better job of eating on time, get better sleep. And it really wasn't until I really truly hit burnout. I was running on 2 hours of sleep a day for a little bit over a month.
Mhm.
And every moment I got to myself, I had still spent it on the business.
Mhm.
And then one day it just crashed. I couldn't remember even the simplest of things, right? I couldn't stay awake. I felt lethargic and drained. It almost felt like having the flu without having the cold associated with the flu. And at that point, I was like, well, I was going to have a conversation with myself and say, do a better job, right? And that's what I did. Right? But it took experiencing it to do it. And I can tell you that once you burn out, your next burnout will hit you harder and
Mm,
harder and harder.
mhm.
So, do your due diligence, take breaks, try to get 2 or 3 hours if you can of unwinding time. I know how hard it is. Trust me. There are times I've stretched the night from coming home from, you know, a 9 to 5 at like 7 o'clock at night and then working until 12 to get things going. I know what it's like. I know why you feel like you need to do it. Trust me, you can do it, but you would be better off breaking it up into chunks, right? It is important because if you are your business right now, you are one person, no one else is taking those shots in the dark while you're asleep, right?
Right.
So while you are awake, do the best that you can and stay prime, stay strong, and treat yourself well. And that also goes to mental health as well.
Mhm.
Make sure that you're telling yourself and you're proud of the accomplishments that you have and that you're not beating yourself up when things don't go well. You will fail a lot, and that's okay. You
Yeah,
will. It's inevitable, right? And it's expected. You will fail, you will fail, you will fail. But when you will succeed big and make sure that you're proud of the accomplishments that you make.
love it. Love that advice. One of the greatest things I think I ever heard was it's not about time management. You cannot manage time.
No,
Time is an immovable force, right? You can't make more time, right? It's about energy management, which I
right.
think is exactly what you're talking about there.
I would say so.
It's how do you make the most of that fixed time? You can go, burn the candle at both ends and be strung out, and an hour's worth of work is worth 10 minutes. But if you manage your energy, you hit that hour strong and refreshed and clear thought, it'll really be a very productive time. Maybe you'll get more than you thought you could get done in an hour.
Yeah.
So absolutely love that advice. Take that myself. And also, I really liked what you said there about, you know, sure, we will fail. Not everything is going to go perfectly, and um, they're lessons when we fail. It's the old adage, right? It's how you pick yourself up, not whether you fail or not, because you
Sure.
will. It's
Yeah.
what you do with the recovery of that. And I really love that where you said about not beating yourself up. And it's really important to walk that fine line of celebrating appropriately. You don't want to pat yourself on the back for, tying both shoes, but
Right. Right.
you celebrate the small wins because they're motivation to keep going,
Yeah.
and that barometer of are you on the right path, going in the right direction. And some of the work I do is with positive intelligence, which is all about the judge, and we judge ourselves, others, and situations. So you've hit it exactly there. It's about, you don't want to judge yourself, you want to be the dispassionate observer of what's going on,
Right.
learn, make adjustments, and then go again.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Uh, definitely, definitely a principle to live by. Something that I wish I knew when I was burning the candle at both ends. I still do sometimes. I'm not gonna
Oh, yeah.
lie, right? There's times where I have to be up real late and do things, but it's because those are the times that I cashed in for necessity. Those
Yeah.
were the areas that I focused on making sure that they are perfect, right? And everything should be perfect, but you can take your time sometimes.
Yeah.
You can be methodical. You don't have to be Sonic and Aristotle at the same time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's about managing it. Sometimes you do have to go extra long, extra
Yeah,
hard, work extra, but then you also have those times where you're recuperating too. So
absolutely.
absolutely wise advice. Jared, just thanks a ton for being with us today. Really appreciate it. It was great talking with you, getting some of this perspective. I love the talk about working on the business instead of in the business. So this is a great conversation. Thanks for all your insights.
Thanks for having me. I really hope everyone can get at least something from the conversation.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thanks.